Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, the podcast where stories of trauma meet the healing power of Jesus. Each week we journey with women who have walked through pain, wrestled through the process, and now stand in the promise of who God called them to be. This is more than storytelling. This is sacred space, where honesty is welcome, healing is possible, and hope is alive. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hey everyone, today I am honored to welcome Becca Engle, a teacher, author, and speaker whose life is living testimony to God's power to redeem, restore, and revive what seems impossible. Rebecca's story is nothing short of miraculous. Once nonverbal, she is now a public speaker, teacher with a master's degree, and boldly uses her voice to educate and encourage and equip others. Her journey is one of breakthrough, healing, and divine purpose. And today she's here to share how God took her from silence to significance. Rebecca, welcome to Healed, Whole, and Called. It's an honor to have you here.
Nice being here.
Yeah. So I would love to know the beginning. Like, I know that been following you online for a little bit and realizing a tiny bit of your story. I would love for you to share with us, the beginning of where your journey began.
Sure. So I was born in '02 for some context. So I'm currently 22 years old. And when I was a little girl, I was nonverbal. Doctors told my mom I would never do anything you could train a monkey to do. At the age of 3, my mom took me in for my regular checkup, and they told her not to compare me to my brothers. I still did not have a single sound. I still did not talk at all. All I was doing was spinning in circles and screaming at the top of my lungs. A few months later, after my 3rd birthday, my brother was going into his 5-year checkup because we are about 2 years apart. And the doctor looked at my mom and said, "What is wrong with your daughter?" And from there on out, I was diagnosed with autism about a week later. Or PDD is what it was known as at the time, a less severe version of autism. My mom decided not to go with the autism diagnosis due to the stigma wrapped around it. PDD is no longer diagnosed. And I was immediately enrolled in early childhood special education after winter break and was put in a self-contained classroom setting for 3 years and then enrolled in kindergarten general ed.
So share with us, was there anything in that journey? Like, at what point did you go from nonverbal to verbal? Was there like a switch? Was it just education? What was it that contributed to that healing?
Sure. It was when I was 5.
Okay.
I went from saying no words to 22 words at the age of 5.
Okay. And was it like just repetitive training, or was there like it's a big thing? I know there's a lot of parents here that may have nonverbal kids listening. So was there anything specific your mom did? Was it something that you ate? Was it what you ate and verbal, or like lessons in training and stuff like that, or a mix of all of it, or no specific formula? It just happened.
So my mom removed all food dyes from my diet.
Okay.
So anything with red dye, anything with yellow dye were completely removed from my diet. She also journaled every movement and every decision I made with my body that was intentional. So every time I stimmed, anytime I moved my hands, anytime I opened my mouth, any noises I made, really anything I did that would be visible to most of the human eye, she journaled and kind of tracked the behaviors over time to notice what was my communication form in the situation I was in.
Okay.
She also read to me a lot.
That's super amazing. I'm just super curious. You're very young, so I'm not sure you'll know this, but have you ever heard of the woman named Temple Grandin?
I have. I love Temple.
Isn't she amazing? I love reading her entire story. I know that um, she had a very similar, but way older than you are, beginning. And but she is changing the world when it comes to the cattle industry, but you're changing the world in different ways. Share with us your superpowers.
Sure. So, being my childhood in my past, and I didn't get a lot of support in school because my mom diagnosed me with that PDD diagnosis rather than the autism diagnosis, and just the stigma back then. It was a fear, right? To put that label on me. And so I didn't get a lot of the support I needed. I got speech therapy after kindergarten, and that's about it. And then after fifth grade, I didn't get anything. And so I failed and I struggled, and I almost probably failed out of high school. I had all Fs in almost every core class, while also dealing with sexual harassment. And so when I graduated a year early from high school just to get out, I graduated with a pretty crappy GPA, and was just like, I need to go and be a teacher because I wanted to change the dynamic for children like me. And I didn't realize the root of my trauma was the education system, and not that I was just dumb until
No.
I got to college. Because my first semester, I had a professor who was talking about accommodations, and me and this professor got into fights all the time. And looking back, I laugh because she just wanted me to get support. And I just thought she was so mean and evil,
Oh.
because she was like, you need to go back on accommodations, Becca. And because I was getting 20s on all her quizzes. And I was like, I can't do that. I've been off accommodation since I was in the fifth grade. I'll be an idiot, you know? And I insulted myself and I called myself dumb and all these things. And she was like, no, seriously, Becca, like, you're amazing. Just like get the support you need for your autism. And I was like, but then I'll be dumb, like, you know? And talking to her, she taught physics for teachers, and just, you know, having those conversations while also being in a special education class to learn how to teach special education children that year. I started hearing things from that professor while also hearing things from my physics professor, and I was like, holy crap, like, oh, that processing problem is just my brain being autistic. Like, it's not that I'm dumb. It's not that I have to, you know, conform to the neurotypical world.
Right.
And so that really rooted a want in my desire. So that same semester, I was interning for Congress, and was the youngest intern on the team. And I was 17, couldn't even vote yet. And I was working for this congressman while knocking door to door, while also navigating full-time school, before I was even an adult. And with that being said, I was learning a lot about the policies in place that were affecting education. And it kind of became my interest looking into education policies that were in place. And then I wanted to understand my brain more and kind of how those policies played an effect on my brain, which led me down this whole entire research tunnel. And it became my special interest. And so now my goal in life is to help develop better support models for autistic children and teach parents those support models as well as schools.
Okay. And so as a teacher, are you teaching now?
Yes.
And what do you teach?
I'm a special education self-contained 5th and 6th grade teacher.
Okay. So explain what that means. So like as a special ed teacher, it's like growing up in the grades, in how old I am, they, at the time, they put everybody in groups. Now they, at least in the school districts we're in, they mix everybody all together, and then they might take them out and they work with special teachers, depending on subjects and things like that. Is that what you do? I'm just trying to understand.
So there are 3 different settings of special education. Technically 4, if you want to consider it that. There's in-class support, which is just going to be that setting where you're one-on-one with a teacher and maybe 3 classmates, which is that pull-out support, or that support within the general ed setting where another teacher's kind of just standing and making sure you're good. There's resource, which is going to be that complete pull-out of the setting for like an hour and a teacher working one-on-one directly with you. And then there's what I teach, which is called structured learning classroom, which is a autism, ADHD, sensory need kind of classroom. And so my children may have very low IQs. They may have really high sensory needs, and they may have a really, really strong suit for math. They may have a really, really strong suit for science, and they may look completely neurotypical. but their IQ is super low. They really, really just struggle in everything else. They may never be able to read, but they can, do a math equation like algebra in their head by the time they're 4. So they have their really, really big strengths and really, really big weaknesses. So they're really intelligent in some areas and struggle in the other side of things. But most of the time it's related to their behavior. And communication lack thereof. So some of my kids are with me for one subject, other kids are with me all day long. It really depends on the kid, but they are more severe than that kid that's just going to be simply pulled out of the classroom because they have autism maybe for academics, but they also are being affected behaviorally. There's also a behavior type unit, which that behavior type unit is going to be those kids that are geniuses everywhere maybe, but have really, really severe behaviors due to their disability. And so those are the kids that probably punch, break windows, slap, are sent to alternative school all the time due to that disability. And then there's going to be that ALE setting, which is self-contained, which is the kids who are low IQ, may live with their parents for the rest of their life, may never be independent, stay there all day. So I kind of teach the in-between setting between that basic pull-out and that behavior setting. So it's kind of an in-between. Like if you took a mix of those kids and threw them in a classroom. Some may have toileting needs, some may have digestive issues, things like that.
So that's fascinating. And I have a question for you. So in the classrooms where you have different behaviors going on, the kids without accelerated behaviors due to disabilities have a hard time understanding kids with behaviors and disabilities, but it doesn't seem like anybody talks about it. It just becomes a problem. So I'm just really curious, maybe why, and I don't mean to, because obviously they can't talk about a particular kid because it's not, I guess they're not allowed to do that. But why can't we help all kids understand each other so there's not tension? Or is there just not a way to do it? I'm just super curious because last year was a very challenging year for my son because of one child that had behavioral issues. And I'm like, and I tried to come to a place of understanding of it, but they weren't allowed to talk about it. And I wasn't wanting to talk specifically about the child. I was wanting, like, how can we have conversations with how can we all win together instead of having, you know what I mean? Am I making any sense at all?
Yes.
Like, how can we make this better instead of it chaotic for all? You know what I mean?
So that's what I love about what I teach, right? Because my setting is for those kids. So if you were causing a disruption in that gen ed setting for that subject, because that's that student's weakness, he would be in my room. And not every school offers what I teach. It's very rare actually to have a setting like mine. Like we have 17 school districts in San Antonio and only 3 have that setting. So it's very rare to find that setting because only 3 districts have that setting of the 17 school districts in my city. And that's just talking my city. Like that's not even talking statewide.
Why is that? Is it just because it's expensive or they don't understand or they don't know or what?
It's a fairly new concept as autism diagnoses have increased. There's concerns about seclusion, meaning that the student is being segregated. There's a lot of concern about like the student's feelings is what it comes down to. And there's this concept in education created by neurotypical people that every kid is a gen ed kid first. And what that means is that before I see your disability, I see you as a person, right? Before I see your negative, right? Because they see the disability as a con, I see you're human, right? Which is a very neurotypical perspective because I will tell you as a disabled autistic adult, I'm physically disabled as well. please see my disability, like, please. And I feel like most of my community agrees. Like, I am an autistic adult, and there's this concept in education that's promoted by the federal government and state governments that pretty much says person with autism rather than autistic person. And that comes along in our education system as well. And when you push that narrative, you create this concept of it being bad to be autistic, right? It's like if I were to say cancerous person, people are like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, right? Because cancer is always a negative.
Right, sure.
But so people see autistic person as that same idea, right? If I say cancerous person, autistic person, boo, negative. But because we've created it as a negative concept, even if I say person with cancer, you're not like, oh, that's rude, but sad, right? If I say person with autism, you think the same thing. Oh, that's sad, right?
But it doesn't have to be sad, is what you're saying.
Correct. Until we change the concept that autism is a sad thing to have and that it's a negative thing in our wording, we'll constantly create this concept that giving autistic children the right space to learn is a negative. And quite honestly, there were classes where if I were one-on-one for that subject, I would have excelled. And it wasn't because I was a bad student. It was simply because I needed to learn it quietly. And I had very supportive parents, so I could go home and be like, Dad, explain this concept to me. But even with the way, like, math was my weakness in high school. And I feel like, you know, even with new math, my dad was like, I don't know how to explain this the way that it's viewed on the test, right? And so I would end up in tutoring one-on-one almost every day. So I was almost taking math twice a day. And then during the actual class time, I wasn't processing anything because I was so overwhelmed by my neurotypical peers.
That makes so much sense. And I'm learning, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I'm just loving how like the whole neurotypical, neurodivergent, neurocreative, all of this is like a word that I'm noticing a lot in 2025 that I didn't notice it before. So, but what's interesting is, and this is one of the things I literally interviewed someone, I don't know, one person ago, who does a very similar thing and helps kids focus on their gifts and not their stuff they're not good at. So if they're good at math, we focus on math. If they're good at reading, we focus on reading. And what I love about 2025 is we finally have AI to fill in the gaps, because you can live in a functional world of neurotypical is what you call everybody else, right? So neurotypical world, but be gifted in your neurodivergence, but fill in the gaps to fulfill the requirement to be neurotypical with AI, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's the neurotypical mind of mine, how to fit you guys a square peg in a round hole. And that's not what I'm trying to do, but I can understand if that's how I sound. So forgive me for that, if that's how I sound.
You're good. And so the neurodivergent, neurotypical terms have been around for a few years. I will definitely say they're increasing. Both positively and negatively. People who aren't autistic are called allistic, and you can be neurodivergent and allistic. And what I mean by that is you can have ADHD without having autism. Your brain can be different. You can have OCD without having autism, right? So if you're OCD without having autism, you're allistic neurodivergent, right? Rather than autistic neurodivergent. And so I feel like a lot of people are seeing this thing where it's like, oh, I use the term neurodivergent, I'm talking about autistic people. And it's like, no, you're not necessarily. Like, you know, I say there's no such thing as a typical brain, because your neurons, I mean, are all different, right? When I do my trainings for districts, for conferences, whatever, I have everybody connect pipe cleaners, and I don't tell anyone how to connect them. I just say connect connect two pipe cleaners. And I will tell you, by the end of it, some people build Eiffel Towers. Some people don't connect two pipe cleaners the correct way. Some people make a heart. Some people make a circle, right? And I didn't test anybody to see if they were autistic in that room or neurodivergent, right? But everyone connects them differently. And I didn't say connect them twice. I said connect them, right? But you'll see hearts, you'll see circles, you'll see, legs, you'll see twisting of Eiffel Towers, you'll see spirals. I mean, it's just crazy, like what our brain does. And, we have 100 billion neurons and only 16 million neurons control that decision.
That's so funny. Well, I would love to know a little bit more about, are you working on creating awareness? Like, I think it's fascinating. Like if I could figure out how to plop you into St. Louis to get them into our school district to help with it feels like it becomes less an issue the older the district, in the middle school, the high school. I don't know about the high school. I have a middle schooler and I have an elementary kid. And I even told my daughter, I'm like, what I find interesting is sixth graders, I don't hear anything about anything. She goes, yeah, because it's survival of the fittest. You have to learn how to start living your life, figure it out, or get left behind. And then, but the younger ones, they hold their hands from kindergarten all the way through fifth grade, and then they're thrown to the wolves in sixth grade. Mm-hmm. And so, but it'd be interesting. I would to have more people like yourself speak up on behalf of others, because I didn't know that. I mean, I'm getting to know more and more people in the disability space, which is why my business is Resilience Press. And I'm starting to realize how much everyone just wants to be acknowledged for who they are, not as a crutch, but as a reality. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have autism. Okay, great. But that doesn't make me less than at all. But don't put me in everybody else and think of me as an ed. I never thought of it that way. You've got the ed-minded, and then I'm like, why does it have to be that way? And I think it's because like well-intentioned humans want to look past, there's no wrong with anybody. Okay, it's kind of like race. Let's just throw the race issue out there too. I see no color, or I see all the colors, and and it can make it annoying to try to get along when we can't even agree that yes, we're all different colors, and we're all different brains. We're all very different, period. How about we start loving each other where we are all at?
Yep.
That's fun.
Yep. But that the education issue and how we address it at a young age is exactly why I wrote my children's book. I feel like there's so much, you can't explain it, but you can't explain it. And I've always told people, and educators alike, I've told people, I think as soon as kindergarten, at the first week of school, we need a day where people who are grown up like me, like people in wheelchairs, I don't care who, just people with disabilities, whether they had them young or not, just to like come on stage and be like, hey, I'm a successful person and this is this is who I am.
Yeah.
And just like, so kids can be like, oh, they're like this person that we saw on stage at the beginning of the year. Look at that person, and it's good. Not, you're thinking about someone that's successful. You're not, thinking about this kid who's a supposed failure or whatever you want to call them,
Right. Oh, that's good. What's the name of your children's book?
Step Into My Shoes.
Step Into My Shoes. And is it available everywhere, Amazon and stuff?
It is available on Amazon, yes.
Super fun. I can't wait to look it up. And when we finish this off, I would love for you to share a word of encouragement for parents out there who may have I don't even know if they even talk spectrum anymore, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yes. Whether they have a nonverbal or they have someone that is, they know they're smart in some areas, but they're not in others, and that's okay. Like, what encouraging word do you have for those parents out there? Or even if you are listening and you are autistic as well, and you're seeing Rebecca thrive in life, what encouragement do you have for that listener?
Yeah, don't be fast to take all the stickers off the Rubik's Cube, take time, figure yourself out. And I always say that because we can rip all the stickers off the Rubik's Cube and we'll solve it, right? But we're going to have little rips. We're going to see little tears. We're going to see little plastic particles sticking out. And if we take time to actually learn to solve the Rubik's Cube, which is ourselves, we can see our full identity come to life. And I feel like keeping that in mind with the disability community is so important.
That is beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing. And I want everyone to know that, to our listeners, remember, your story isn't over. You are not disqualified by what you've been through or what you're going through. With Jesus Christ, you are healed, whole, and called. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us on Healed, Whole, Called. If this episode spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know that healing is possible, purpose is real, and God is still restoring. And before you go, visit resilience-press.com and download your free copy of Get to the Point of Self-Publishing, Wendy's guide to help you move from stuck to published with clarity and confidence. You'll find it in the free resources section. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, covered in grace, and always moving toward the promise.